Okay, so B2B SaaS marketing. Anyone here in B2B SaaS marketing? One. All right, well, this presentation will also cover a little more than just B2B SaaS marketing. If you're in B2B professional services, this will be relevant to you as well. Anyone here from B2B pro services? One? Oh man. Everyone else B2C? Is that where we're all from? Okay. Anyways, before I jump in, we all use Google to run search, and we all are familiar with Google. But does anyone know, out of all the places to search, how much market share or how much Google takes up? Any guesses? 90%? 80%? Less than 50? A little bit of research, and the number was a lot lower than I thought. It's only around 30%. So not what I was expecting. Normally you see these comparisons and they put Google next to Bing and all the other search engines, but when you look at the broader amount of places where you can actually go and search, it's a lot less. So what this is saying is that these days with AI and everything, the buyer behavior is changing, and it's changing really fast. With the introduction of things like ChatGPT, we're finding out now that a lot of people in America, a lot of adults, it's jumped from 15% to 30-something% that are now using ChatGPT for search. And yeah, the landscape is changing super fast. Also, anyone here familiar with zero-click or no-click searches? Yep, great. So that is on the rise. It does go up and down, and as Google refines their algorithm, but bottom line is the way consumers buy things is changing, and that does cause a bit of anxiety. I know I get two types of people that come to me, where they come to me and they go, hey, I think SEO is dead. Or they come to me and they're like, hey, SEO is like really important, and which is it? So hopefully today we'll find out. So just by way of just introducing myself, I do run a small marketing agency. We focus on B2Bs, some SaaS, some pro services, and the three core things that we help them do is we help them generate more revenue, but we do it through search, social, and trust. And using those three things, today I'm going to share some success stories I've had with some of my clients. So one of my clients is Performio. They used to be a South Melbourne software company, and I helped them get to a point where they got acquired several times, and the last time was $75 million in funding. So that was pretty good for them. And then we have other clients also in the same sales commission space in Centex, and then a law firm in the UK, LCN. So we'll go in and we'll have a look at how I got them to where they are today. So starting with, before we dive into all the sort of tips and tricks, the main thing is we need to get a couple concepts, we need to understand these things. So when you do a lot of your marketing, a lot of people focus solely on visibility. How do I get number one on Google? How do I get people to see my ad? How do I get people to open my email? That's great. You need the visibility. But if you don't have their trust, then they're not going to click your link. They're not going to push the button. They're not going to ask for a demo. So when you do your marketing and when we work with our clients, the thing that we really focus on is around that social proof. It's not just okay, let's go out and get some reviews. It's, hey, you need to consistently get more reviews all the time. Not a one-off campaign. You just have to consistently do it. I guess the main takeaway here is you need to balance your visibility and trust levels before you do anything else. So if we're all clear on that, then we can move to the next thing, which is how consumers are buying things. And what I found is it's an absolute mess. People don't follow your funnel. They start in all different places, and it's really quite messy. Anyone here familiar with the term dark social? So dark social, it has nothing to do with the dark web, so nothing weird and sus like that. Dark social is about all the touch points that are impossible or really difficult to measure. And you'd be surprised at how people's buying journeys start. And what you might find is that it starts in the weirdest places. So I'll give you a real-life example. This morning, I was just happened to be on LinkedIn, and then I saw one of my clients like a post from someone in their field, and that thing that they liked was this person going, hey, they're a lawyer, and they're like, I made this video, and it was a really freaking impressive video. And I thought, holy crap, if a lawyer can make a video like that, like, I have to up my game. So I got a little worried. And then I started doing some research on what that product is. Anyways, that was just one way to find out about a new sort of SaaS product. But going back to this slide, yeah, people will find out about your product in all sort of different places. So places like Reddit could be one. And then based on that, they might go, wow, what is this product? So they go to their Slack community where they talk to other digital marketers or people in their space. And then they ask, hey, has anyone heard of this new product? And they might get some feedback. They might get some positive word of mouth. Hey, you should definitely check out this thing. I use it, or I started using it. And so from there, they might bounce around to other places. At the same time, that new software might be doing a big media blitz. So then they'll hear about it on a podcast that they listen to. And meanwhile, all this stuff that's happening, you can't really track that in your CRM, right? Because they haven't come to your website. They haven't filled the form. You don't know any of this is happening. And so it keeps going to a whole bunch of different places. They might do a search. They might go on social media. They'll get retargeted. They'll do a search on Google, but rather than going to your website, they see g2.com. They go there. They look at your listing. They're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Then they go to LinkedIn. They follow you. And then finally, they realize, I don't actually have to do squat. This problem that the software fixes, it's not that big of a deal. So they do nothing, and they wait. And then weeks, months go by, and then finally one day their boss comes in and goes, hey, you need to fix that problem ASAP. And they're like, oh, shit, I got to do something right now. So then they already know who you are, so they go directly to your website, fill in the form, and what does HubSpot say? HubSpot says, direct traffic. So what do we do as marketers? We just not bother with any of that other stuff? It's really hard to track all these things. And the way that we try to help our customers track it is, here's one little tip. At the bottom of your form, you can just ask, how did you hear about us? And in plain text, no drop-downs or anything fancy, just let them answer in their own words how they first heard about us. And then that way they can type in Reddit or they can be more specific. So yeah, it's a low-tech answer, but you'll get some really good results. You might even get some funny results. I think the best result that I saw for self-attribution was mouth to mouth. So kind of a weird one. I think they meant word of mouth, but hey, you know what? You never know, right? So yeah, so anyways, the point is people's buying journeys aren't quite what you expect. It might not fit in with your funnel. You got to be flexible, and you have to be in a lot of places. And I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, so I need to be omnipresent. No, don't be omnipresent. These 5 steps here, these are the 5 things that I get all of my B2B SaaS companies to follow. Pro service people, or one pro service person. This is, you can follow these 5 steps. There's probably one that you'd want to tweak. People in B2C, maybe only the first 3 are relevant. All right, so the first thing to really focus on is SEO is not dead. You definitely want to appear in search. And you want to appear organically, and you want to appear for paid search. And you want to start today, because the way things are going, the more I see what's happening with all these, with Microsoft ads and Google ads, these ad algorithms are becoming more like large language models, where you have to train them to actually work. And to train them, you need to give them money, and you need time, and you need good data. So definitely don't stop SEO. Keep focusing on it. And you know what? The bonus is a lot of the best practices for SEO will actually help you appear in things like ChatGPT. So it's a kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So stick with SEO. Then, other than appearing on search and AI engines, you want to focus on these directories. So I mentioned G2 earlier. A lot of SaaS companies tend to have this dilemma of, do I appear on Capterra, or do I go to G2 first? And the answer is you have to appear on both. Personally, with the SaaS companies that I've worked with, and by the way, if you're not familiar, G2 and Capterra are directory sites where people share their reviews and you can compare all the different pieces of software together. And so by being on those directories, you're going to build that trust because you're going to have to go out to people and get them to leave reviews and testimonials that you can then use on your site and your socials. But yeah, definitely you need to go out and gather those testimonials. So if your industry has a directory, then yeah, you need to start funneling people there to get those positive reviews. And after you do that, then because of the way people are changing the way they buy, they trust what they see more on social than what they see on a review site. You also want to go out there onto social media. Now in B2B, it's pretty simple. It's pretty much just LinkedIn, so that's a no-brainer. If you're in B2C, it could be Instagram, it could be TikTok, Facebook, depending on the age of your prospects. So you really want to pick one social media platform and double down on creating content specifically for that platform to drive awareness. This is more top-of-funnel awareness because, as I mentioned earlier, that zero-click thing that's happening, that's taking away that top-of-funnel awareness. What you could ask Google and what it now displays, it's stealing all the traffic away from your blog posts, or at least that's what I found with a lot of my B2B clients. Moving along, so other than organic social, you also want to start to do paid social because, frankly, if you post something on social media, it doesn't mean people will see it. You won't get that visibility. So you have to pay to play on social media. So you have to shell out some bucks and help them distribute your content. And then the last thing is remembering that you cannot be everywhere at the same time. You need to be very selective of where you are. And when you do pick where you appear, you really want to make sure that you understand the nuances of each different platform, because what works on LinkedIn is not going to work on TikTok or Reddit or YouTube. And you'll just look like an idiot if you just copy paste the one thing that you've done across all the platforms, speaking from personal experience. Anyways. Absolutely. If you cannot dance, don't get on TikTok. I'm kidding. It does depend on your audience and where they go. So this little diagram here, this kind of shows the buyer motivations and the different sort of places. So what you want to do is you want to build something like this out for your clients, so to the prospects that you're selling to. So when you think about it, the most traditional one, the classic one that we all have is browse. And for any sort of nerds like myself, you might go, hey, dude, that's a browser, Edge, not a search engine. You'll find that if a lot of your clients are using Edge and they're coming through Bing, they're probably not like super tech savvy, or they're in enterprise and they just rock up to work, use their HP or Lenovo, and they just use what they're given. And that means you might find more success in Microsoft ads than Google ads because they don't know they're using Bing. I don't know if anyone here uses Bing. I use it every now and then, but it looks a lot like Google. And some people can't tell the difference. And some people don't actually care. And the important part is that visibility. You want to be there when they're searching. So with browsing, you might also want to try out Microsoft ads. Trust, I mentioned those two directories. Reddit is also there. So some people, like myself, go to Reddit. We go to Reddit and we check it out and we go there to find and learn new things. Believe, so those are the three sort of most popular AIs out there. Again, what you do for SEO, traditional, normal SEO, that will help you rank in those chatbots. Learning, so the reason I mentioned LinkedIn earlier is because your clients, they probably do want to learn new things. And where do they go to learn? Is it YouTube? It could even be TikTok. So depending on where they go to learn, you want to be there with that educational content that matches that sort of platform. Under try, it's really hard to see, but if you go there a lot, you'll be familiar. Those are these sort of app stores for enterprise software. So we got Salesforce, HubSpot, NetSuite, and Oracle, I think, are the other two. And you need to be there. If your piece of software integrates with those platforms, you absolutely have to be there in those app exchanges, because people who are married into or bought into the HubSpot or Salesforce ecosystem, that's probably one of the first places they'll look when they go to try to find a solution. Buying, again, we're pretty lucky, or the B2B SaaS companies, the only way to buy the software is to go to their site. But the Apple and Google Play stores are there as a reminder that B2B clients, they actually prefer a B2C experience. I don't know if anyone here uses Salesforce, but back in the day when I was using it, the only way to add a new user, like to buy another license, was to contact your account manager and go, hey, Jeremy, I want one license. And then he would DocuSign you something and you'd have to fill that out, and it was a whole mess. And then they introduced the self-service thing. And I thought, holy smokes, this is great. I could just go in there and push +1 and then add one user. Wow. Yeah, B2B people, we actually want a B2C experience. And then the last thing is escapism, because your clients aren't workaholics. They do want to switch off at some point, and that's probably one of the places they go to, in that sort of little box there. And that's where you want to do your retargeting. But you want to be tasteful with your retargeting, right? Because they went there to escape. If I'm on Facebook or Instagram and then that same software company is retargeting me and they're like, hey, get a demo, I'm just going to tune it out because I went there to escape. But if they know that I like weird and funny things on Reddit and their ad is weird and funny and it matches what's on Reddit, then I'm more likely to pay attention than if it was the same ad that they ran on LinkedIn. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I won't go through this in super detail. You can take a photo or whatever. And every platform has their do's and don'ts. So Reddit and LinkedIn, there's a lot of similarities. A lot of people ask questions, and then a lot of people provide helpful advice. But if, me, and I've done this, if you wrote something really thoughtful on LinkedIn and you just found the same question on Reddit and you just paste it in there, you will get lampooned. People will make fun of you and they'll just call you all kinds of nasty names. So that doesn't work. And all you have to really do is you just have to change the way that you answer the same question on that platform to match it. And yeah, so people on Reddit are super sensitive to people that are self-promotional. So you just have to do it in a more casual way. You can still do it. You will achieve the same goal. You will get that visibility. You will get that trust. But you just have to understand the different nuances of different places. Alrighty, let me just move along to the next one. So here, we've just covered a whole bunch of things to do, right? Do they actually work? Have they actually worked for real customers? We'll go through these 3 customers, and I'll share a little bit about what I've done for each one and what the impact has been. So we'll start with customer number 1, Incentex. So Incentex, they automate sales commissions. Where I used to work, and one of my foundational clients, Performio, they also automated sales commissions. And I think I've got time. I'll do a 2-in-1 case study. So what I learned at Performio was nobody was searching for incentive compensation management, ICM. That's the technical term, like CRM, ICM. No one ever Googled that. Like, nobody did. The only people that were Googling it were probably Gartner researchers. Everyone was using the phrase sales commission software or sales compensation software. So when I decided to focus on SEO, I didn't bother with ICM or SPM, the other industry terms. I went with what people actually used in terms of their phrasing. And yeah, that made life real easy, and we ranked in the sort of top 10. We got the visibility, we got the leads. It was fantastic. But that was like 10 years ago. And now the sales commission space is super duper crowded. So when I spoke with Hillel, the co-founder and CEO of Incentex, I said, look, we can get you on page 1 for sales comp software, but it's going to take a lot of time. And we don't want to wait another 4 or 5 years to get on page 1. Is there any way that we can speed things up a little bit? And I asked him, hey, Hillel, what does your software do? And he's like, yeah, it does sales comp, but it also does rebate, royalties, trade promotion management, chargeback. It does a whole bunch of other stuff. And he said rebate, and that was an interesting term because whenever we tried to do rebates where I used to work, it was very difficult. And I'm like, you're thinking do it out of the box? He's like, yeah, we have a whole interface. I was like, holy smokes. This is your killer app, your killer feature. So rather than entering into the sales comp really crowded space, we went with rebate management software. And so I'll give you the full rundown of what we did. So we went with all the different SEO things that you could do to a site. We made sure the site was super duper fast. We added a whole bunch of schema markup. By the way, I'm a massive SEO nerd, if that wasn't obvious. So we went with everything you could do for technical SEO. We also broke out all the different features so they had their own dedicated pages. Once each feature had its own page, like the rebate management software page, we then wrote a bunch of blog posts about rebate management. So rebate management for pharma, rebate management for B2B, all kinds of rebate management blog posts. We interlinked all these blog posts. So we did a whole bunch of on-page SEO. Then we also, I probably could have used Bree's help here, but we did a lot of backlink SEO. Off-page SEO. So we got a lot of backlinks to the site, a bit of guest posts, a bit of link insertion, and what happened is, within about 3 or 4 months, we got on page 1, and I ran this the other day, and now we're in position 3. Freaking awesome result for the visibility part. But are we flying off the shelf? No. We're there, but we're not getting tons and tons of leads. And the reason is we don't have the trust yet. So we're there where it matters, but people aren't kicking the door down to get demos. So the next thing to focus on for them is building that trust. So hopefully this makes it clear that just because you're there exactly where you want to be, your dreams aren't going to come true. You need to balance the visibility and the trust. And so speaking of trust, one of my clients, another client, LCN, and let's see if I can get this right, they do transfer pricing compliance for intercompany agreements, whatever the hell that means. So I still don't know what they really do, but I can tell you that the guy there, Paul Sutton, he's well known in the transfer pricing community. Their problem was being able to build a lot of content on LinkedIn. And so the issue was it's very hard to know what he talks about. He's the subject matter expert. I can't fake it. And to find a ghostwriter, we eventually found one, but it's taken almost a year to find someone that could match his tone and understanding in the space. And so we had a scaling problem of content. And so what we were able to figure out was Paul had written a bunch of LinkedIn posts that did really well. He organized them all into a PowerPoint, and that was his sort of LinkedIn content. And what I worked out was it was very easy, and ironically, there's not a lot of animations in my slides, but I was able to animate his slides, turn them into videos, and now we have this wonderful sort of content machine where it's a mixture of the videos or his slides as videos, posts that he's written, the sort of red box at the top. I know I'm waving here. Normally there's a screen here, and then the video down at the bottom. It's super easy for us to reproduce this content on a sort of cyclical basis where all I have to do is really change up the sort of template of the video, change the colors effectively, and then insert a different promotional webinar for that month. And we now have an ongoing series of content. So it makes it super easy for us to produce content for him. And since we've been able to do that, he's had more people come into his webinars. So we've gone from, 10 to 20 people per webinar to 50 to 300 participants coming in. And what normally happens is out of the webinars, he gets 1 or 2 new clients. And the clients that he works with, those are the big sort of accounting firms, and they pay a pretty penny. So things are working out really well for Paul. And last client, also in the sales comp space, this is an interesting case study where it's not exactly a marketing win. Marketing didn't really have to do anything. But we found on Reddit that there's this user called Gogo Manga or something, and this user goes around and positively promotes Zencentive. Now, the first thing that people on Reddit do is they try to call people out on their BS. Redditors love calling people out on their BS, but this person hasn't been called out. Odds are because they're a real person. So if you're going to participate on Reddit, you need an account that is more than a year old, right? If you look at the age of this account, it's 14 years old. Zencentive is only a year old. So it's not like one of the founders made a profile, waited 14 years, and then started promoting their own business. It's not likely. If you look at their profile, not only the age, if you look at their communities that they participate in, you actually get a good idea of what your customers might be interested in. So some of the communities are like FP&A, which I think that has something to do with finance, and there's other communities around sales comp. So now at Zencentive, we're running social media ads on Reddit, and Reddit is super cheap compared to LinkedIn or TikTok. So we're able to raise awareness, at a lower budget. All right, last but not least, I think one of the biggest takeaways or lessons I've learned that will be helpful to make all of these wonderful things happen is you need to speak the love language of the CEO, which is revenue. So I've asked where I used to work, I had all these great ideas and they never happened because the CEO was like, nah, that sounds okay, but no. But it was only once I realized that I needed to be speaking his language. So for me, those are like the lagging indicators when you look at the full funnel, where we want to talk about revenue. We want to talk about the sales velocity, the average deal cycle, what the conversion rates are, not clicks to leads, all the different pipeline stages in the sales pipeline. So once we started talking about that, then that's wonderful. And even with prospective clients that come to me, they'll come and go, hey, we want to raise awareness. We want to do demand gen. And then that's okay, that's cool. But what you're saying is you want more revenue, right? You want bigger deals. You want to shorten those sales cycles. And they're like, oh yeah, that's exactly what we want. I don't know why we came to you asking for a new website. Yeah, we want bigger deals. I'm like, perfect. So yeah, we try to talk to them about their sort of lagging indicators to get them over the line. Oh, and also one more thing, you gotta avoid this one-to-one attribution thing where I sometimes get asked, hey, what's the ROI on this one blog post? It's like, that's not how it works. Coca-Cola doesn't run an ad campaign on TV and goes, I wonder how much the 3:30 p.m. ad spot, I wonder how many more people bought Coke because of that. Like, that's not how it works. So you really want to get their mindset away from one-to-one attribution. And I think my time's up. But yeah, so here's some of the takeaways. You really need to get to know your customers. You need to change right now, not right now, sometime soon. You gotta want to make these changes. You need a balance of visibility and trust, and be smart about what you measure. And yeah, you got to think long term. That's it.